My pranams at the feet of our loving Lord and Master Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Sai Ram to you all. Welcome to this, the fifth and final tale about ashram life at Prasanthi Nilayam, from a time when Swami was still walking amongst us at Darshan. This tale is entitled, Perhaps the Greatest Miracle. What am I doing here? I'm standing near the foot of the meditation tree, looking out over the barren Indian landscape. Puttaparthi sits like an oasis in a red desert that seems to stretch on forever. Only the individual hills basking in the sun act as markers to anchor the eyes. I could be anywhere on this great continent. But here, what am I doing here? I reflect that my life to date has already taken a number of radical twists and turns. Strangely enough, I can now identify a pattern to them, which is easy to see in hindsight, but which at the time gave no hint or suggestion of what was to come. Standing here, I recall one winter's evening in Glasgow, attending a function when an Australian lady had been invited as the guest speaker. With wisdom born out of hard and sometimes violent experience, she was widely recognised for deploying her renowned and insightful intuition. At question time, I was moved to stand up and ask her what the future might hold for me. She thought for a moment and replied, "If I told you now, you probably wouldn't believe me, and in fact, you probably wouldn't even do it." And so saying, I realised that she knew more about my nature than most, and so I had agreed that inactivity on my part would likely be the outcome if she were to divulge her insight. Afterwards I thought no more about it, though I never gave up my search for what my future might hold. Standing here in the hottest part of the day, and dressed in long flowing white robes under the shade of a large tree, in an unremarkable town somewhere in the middle of India, seemingly miles from anywhere, it was hard to fault the lady. Visits to the Glasgow bookshop had shown that a guidebook has got to be almost 2 inches thick before it mentions Puttaparthi, and even then you have to be lucky to find more than a paragraph. And yet, miracle of miracles, it has an airport. There it was, shown on the map of the Indian Airways in-flight magazine, this small town that lies between somewhere and somewhere else. To get here we had flown for an hour in an Airbus A320 over the Indian desert, and the ground below us had been relentless in its red uniformity. But then without warning the aeroplane had dipped down, and there, in the middle of this great vastness, we saw the small airstrip, complete with its air traffic control tower and terminal building. It has often been suggested that if ever another Messiah came down to earth, then the world would very soon get to know about it, such as the power of modern communications and the press. As I gaze over the still landscape, there was no evidence of this yet. Perhaps the greatest miracle lies in the fact that the world does not know. But this has not stopped Swami providing his devotees with an airport to facilitate their journey to him. The aeroplane we had arrived in had been routed from Mumbai to Chennai, only stopping off at Puttaparthi for the likes of Malcolm, Arthur and I. Just before we landed, I had idly speculated whether 1 or 2 more fellow passengers might disembark with us. In the event, the aeroplane emptied. In the heat of the afternoon on this hillside, I know what I am doing in this hitherto unremarkable town, and so it seems do all my fellow passengers.